Well, we are to talk about our struggles on quitting smoking and why it's so hard to quit. As I watch my father and my mother try also, I guess I just really want to share the story with the process of my father and my mother. Every time I light up a cigarette, it all comes back to me with my mother and father. Uh, to start off with, my father, who was diagnosed with emphysema in 2005. It was January, and I knew that when he would come from Scottsdale, Arizona, is where he worked, where he lived. When he would come up to Salt Lake to visit, the altitude was really tough for him. He couldn't breathe, had a hard time with the altitude. So he couldn't come here at all to see us as kids, and so by May or June, went to go spend some time with him. I had gotten hospice set up in Scottsdale for him so he could be home and around his sister. She was basically a caretaker, and then my grandma had gone down, his mother, to help take care of him. Spending time with him, he was on oxygen. Talking with the hospice nurses and just the reality that this was terminal just hadn't settled in. You never talk about the passing of somebody that is so close to you. And I went and spent that week with them, and we never really talked about him passing away. But it was a time that I will never forget of being with him. And so I came back to Salt Lake after that, and then I got a phone call on July. It was the first week of July, and he said that he wanted to start the process. And so he cut off all meds other than the Ativan and the morphine that morning, and that my sister Shannon and I needed to fly out to be there. And so we got on the plane as soon as we could and got there, and me being the oldest, I stepped up, and knowing that Grandma couldn't do it, or any of my other two younger siblings. So every hour I would give him a syringe full of, not a syringe full, but I would give him the milligrams of Ativan and morphine every hour. And that started about 12 o'clock when I flew into Scottsdale. So every hour, that afternoon, in the evening, just watching him, and he would mumble of having to go to the restroom, and helping him get out of the bed and walking him into the restroom and waiting for him outside the door, and then go back to the bed that was set up in the living room, and I would be on the couch and have the alarm set. And it was all through that evening, all through the whole night. In the morning, it seemed like that he really wasn't there. He'd need to go to the restroom again, and he'd just stare up at the ceiling. And to help him, it was one of the hardest things that I had ever done. That continued that next morning and all in the afternoon, and then that evening about 6-7 o'clock he passed away. He took his last breath. I could feel that, like I was gasping for a breath. And he had, the hospice nurse had said at least 3 months to 6 months, maybe a year longer, but he chose to leave with dignity. And since that day, July 7th of 2005, all I could think about was me helping him pass away. And that is probably the hardest thing to still grasp. And it's all how you perceive it. It was done out of love for him and the compassion of helping him go, because of the emphysema and how hard it was for him to breathe. He had told me that the doctor had said he had 6% lung function. So I knew he was struggling, and I just wanted to make it easier for him to go. So that is what I live with every day. And lighting up that cigarette brings that back. It's a vicious circle. And then with my mother, with her lung cancer, she was diagnosed with it in 2010. She went through chemo and radiation. She did not even want me to come and see her at the hospital. We really had an estranged relationship for 30 years, at least, if not more. So it was September of 2011 when I decided to stop by the house and see about trying to establish our relationship again. And that's when I had found out that she was there by herself and nobody really to help her. She looked thin and frail, going through the chemo and the radiation. And I had just told her, no matter what's happened in the past or how mad she is at me, or even if she doesn't like me, that I would be there for her no matter what. That she is my mother. And I would do everything possible. Trying to help her with all her meds and making sure she didn't take too many or not enough, missing them while working my full-time job, and having to go there before I go to work and going there after work. She didn't want hospice in there yet, so it was a bit of a struggle for the first few months of spending time with her. She was probably 98 pounds. The cancer was in the lung, her in larynx on her voice box. But she was a strong woman and very independent. So for the 4 months, September through January, I got to make a difference in my mother's life, and she still continues to smoke as well. She'd have a cigarette in between her fingers, laying in bed. That's where she was at, in her bedroom. And she'd just fall asleep and the cigarette would fall on the bed. And I think that's what I feared a lot, was that when I wasn't there, that it would start a fire. So I got her fiance to come back from Wyoming to help, which he was her guardian angel. I got to spend Thanksgiving with my mother. I made her Thanksgiving dinner. I showed her sculpting that I've done. Show her who I was. From the 30 years she hasn't had me in her life. And she had told her fiance that she had regretted that decision of not having me there, and was proud of me. I just wish she could have told me that herself. I got hospice in there. She didn't want oxygen. I remember going to the doctors. She had broke her arm, fell off the ladder. And when they were doing x-rays, they saw that the cancer had come back in her lungs like a vengeance. And so we took her to the cancer center, and her doctor had said that the only thing they can do now is make her comfortable. And to see her sitting in that wheelchair, and the look on her face. I could see denial, fear, strength of wanting to try whatever there was out there to help her stay here longer. And I just wanted to just hug her and hold her and tell her it's going to be okay. So we left there and went back to her house, and finally got hospice to come in and to help her come to terms that it could be soon. And then there was Christmas. I got to spend Christmas with her. Her last Christmas. But she would still smile. I knew she was in so much pain. So I wanted to spend as much time as I could because I knew the time was soon. And January 13th of 2012, she passed away. She wanted to pass away at home, and that's where she was. So those are the memories I have of smoking, lighting of a cigarette, that had they never smoked, that they would probably still be here. And I miss them so much. I know everybody has their stories about losing a family member, mother, father, brother, sister, and what an impact that makes in your life. But because I smoke, I think about it, that that's the way that I could pass away. And it scares me. That's all I think about when it comes down to smoking. So that is the real raw, real struggle in my life with this addiction of cigarettes. And something that I live with every day when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night. And wanting to call my dad or go over and see my mother. So there is any way that this story can make a difference in somebody's life, then I know that everything that has happened is not in vain, and that there's a purpose. So that is kind of behind the I know this is all private and not people talk about death or passing away or the memories of seeing the process of that. But I would hope that would make an impact as much as the commercials do of a smoker in a wheelchair that looks close to death, or pictures of the black lungs. Nothing about smoking is attractive. Nothing about it is good. And again, I wish I would have never started smoking. Being young, you don't think about it. You think you can stop anytime that you want to. That it'll be easy. That you are in control. But it's been 30 plus years for me, and it is a tough road. Being a stress smoker and living alone. It's very difficult. So you young kids out there, don't make that choice to smoke that first cigarette. And that is that's the story. That's what I deal with every day.